Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you with Robin #1. And I first want to give a shout out to my buddy Harold. I met up with him yesterday. He finally found me a Swamp Thing action figure, and I was like, yes! And I appreciate you, buddy, and we'll review it soon. But he also hooked me up with some comic books. And I could not wait to get home and review this one for everybody. And I have to say, I have mixed feelings about it. I'm thankful that it's Joshua Williamson writing, but compared to older writers like Jim Starlin, I think it was Alan Grant. If I'm wrong, feel free to make fun of me. And Chuck Dixon, I could see where modern comics get to be a little stagnant. What do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and dive into this book. This was part of the Infinite Frontier imprint. And the book starts out, I really did enjoy. I enjoyed the way that it starts out. So it kind of gives a quick history on Robin for those that may not really know how he first appeared in the pages of Batman pre-Flashpoint. I can't remember what issue it is off the top of my head. I know it was down there in what was it? The 600 somewhere, I think. But feel free to make fun of me and let me know down in the comments. I have the book, and we will eventually go over it. And then it talks on the joining of the Super Sons before He Who Shall Not Be Named decided to destroy that. And let's listen to Bruce's voiceover. I could see it in his eyes the moment we met. It was like looking in a mirror. Ever since his mother brought him to me, it was clear he was going to be a handful. Calling him entitled would be an understatement. To the role of Robin, to taking life. And he never questioned that he'd one day be Batman. He is as strong as he's stubborn. And there's no doubt in my mind that Damian can take care of himself. So you can see there how Bruce is proud of his son. But here, another he who shall not be named decided to really, for lack of a better term, shit all over that relationship by killing off Alfred and the now infamous Batman, I believe it was 77 from this, the Volume 3 current run of Batman, which the way he died, absolutely no reason for it. Now, if like Alfred went out like in a blaze of glory, or something, but just the way that it was done was very tasteless, and it still, for a lot of us longtime Batman fans, has really left a bad taste in our mouth, and we're just very sour about it. But in the fallout of that, Damian has left Gotham. Basically, he is off-grid. He is gonzo. He's bitter at the whole Bat family, particularly his father. So Bruce has all his feelers out, every aspect of the Bat family. But what this book kind of becomes is a mixture for me, and this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the review, where I get tired of modern books where I feel like ideas are getting, okay, let me put some context here. I understand that, in time immemorial, I guess you could say, ideas have always been recycled. Batman was inspired by Zorro, and I'm sure Zorro was probably inspired by someone else. But if you go back to the 80s and 90s in terms of Batman stories, the way they introduced Jason Todd post-Crisis, because his pre-Crisis origin, it was kind of nerdy, but his post-Crisis origin, excellent. Then you got The Death in the Family. You got Batman Year One. You got The Dark Knight Returns. You got Watchmen. You got all these stories that could take tired elements and recycle them. Here, let's talk about who made the book, and I'll explain. This is Versus the World. Joshua Williamson, writer. Gleb Melnikoff, artist. ALW's Troy Pateri doing the letters, and then here's everyone else working on the book. And if I'm not mistaken, Robin was created by Grant Morrison, and I'm not sure if there was an artist along with him at the time, but Grant Morrison was his brainchild, or vice versa. I haven't had enough coffee yet. this is a fight book. And it's kind of a cage match. This, again, kind of reminds me like Williamson is drawing from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man when Spider-Man was fighting Bonesaw, a.k.a. Macho Man Randy Savage. And this character here, the King Snake, I kind of feel like he should have got a little more respect. Now here, with that said, help me out, guys. I remember when Chuck Dixon introduced King Snake, and I thought he was just part of Bane's gang. Because I remember there was this guy, and I may be getting it turned around, because I thought there was like a dude with a hawk, there was some other dudes, and they were the ones getting ready to take down Batman, because it was leading up to Nightfall. And I believe they were all first introduced in, what was it, The Vengeance of Bane, number one shot, you know what I mean, by Chuck Dixon. So when did King Snake, what issue was it finally revealed that this was supposed to be Bane's father? And with that said, that's why I said I feel like this character should have got a little more respect, because they're fighting for an invitation to this thing called the League of Lazarus. And yeah, real original, I know. But he's blind, and he easily gets taken down by Damian. Now, don't get me wrong, Damian's supposed to be the mixture of blood of Batman and Ra's al Ghul. But someone that's supposed to be as equally lethal, being taken out that easily, I felt was just kind of a throwaway. And that's what kind of, I think, pisses me off too, is a lot of these older characters that were introduced back in the late 80s, early 90s, and they had some meat to them, have just kind of become stand-ins to push plot ideas along. So it's just kind of like, man, they really could have done something with this, especially with Robin being so bitter about the death of Alfred at the hands of Bane. He should have been used later in the book. So speaking of, I think the one part of this book that really starts to hit me in the feels is Robin's, well, at first there's this tonal change, and I was like, wait a minute. And you can see it's very manga-esque. And you come to find out that Damian's waiting for his invitation to the League of Lazarus because he won the fight against King Snake. And I will say, I like how we sort of see this cloud effect, like, I hate to say this, but kind of like Lion King when Simba sees his father in the sky, but it symbolizes that what Alfred instilled in Damian is coming up and speaking to him, kind of like a guilty conscience. He goes, you choose to hide from your father in some of the farthest, most nefarious reaches of the world and involve yourself in brutal and illegal fights in search of the League of Lazarus. But you chose to fight King Snake for a reason, to humiliate him. Is it because he's Bane's father? Don't get it twisted. This was no act of revenge. They set this fight up. He was just next in line. So right there, that's what I meant by King Snake. I feel like should have been used differently later in the book. But I like how Damian, he's sitting here kind of arguing with himself, but for the reader to make it, more engaging, it shows him talking to Alfred. And I hope that at some point I don't know. At this point, I feel like it would be tacky to bring Alfred back, but at the same time, it would be nice to really undo the damage that He Who Shall Not Be Named Part 2 destroyed. That's just me. Damian gets his invitation to the League of Lazarus. And here. So you're getting taken to an island to fight for the rights of the League of Lazarus, essentially. Does this not, for those of you that can remember, not remind you of a certain, 1995 movie that came out over a craze of a video game? Mortal Kombat. Because we see everyone here, we see Robin meeting up with Ravager, and then there's this respawn. And everybody here, like Ravager, I feel like, she's going to have more of a bit in the story later. But it just felt like there was a lot of people just kind of standing around talking about why is the son of the Bat being here, etc., so forth. We're introduced to Mother Soul, and we're also introduced to this character named Flatline. And she reminds me of God, I cannot remember her name, but she's on the Titans now, a part of Robin's team. The lady, the daughter of Lobo, I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but she kind of reminds me of her. And they get into a fight because Damian's like, why wait for all this pageantry? Why don't we just get into the meat and bones of fighting? So Flatline accepts. And I don't want to give away the latter half of this fight, but needless to say, I've said this before, I feel like DC really needs to stop being so chicken shit. Because in the, what was it? The Joker War, I do feel like DC pulled Tinian back from killing off the Joker. I could feel many times DC's pulled back from wanting to full-on kill Bruce Wayne, which, again, if you guys go back pre-Flashpoint and when Morrison did Batman R.I.P. and then jumped into Batman and Robin, you know, with, what was his name, Dick Grayson taking over the Batman mantle, it made sense, and it was an excellent book. The books was selling well. I remember that time, and it was excellent. And then they brought him, you know, Bruce back, and it just kind of dissolved that whole era. It was just kind of like, well, shit. Here, if you guys read this book and you get to the last few pages, you'll understand what I'm meaning. And because DC is afraid to take certain chances, and what I mean by certain chances is, okay, they boldly did kill Alfred. I'll give them that. But again, I feel like it was more for shock and not done tastefully. Like I said, if Alfred would have like jumped in the line of fire or something, it would have been a little more meaningful in the way he was killed. But at this point, they haven't brought him back. I can give him props for that because death and resurrection has just become so commonplace that at this point, people are just like, who cares? But the way this book ends, you're thinking, oh, wow. But there's obviously an issue 2, so you're just like, who gives a shit? I don't have a physical issue 2 yet. If I come across it, I'll review it, but I'm in no rush. I found some pages online that I was looking at, and I went, yep, that's exactly what I thought, and it just diminishes everything that they kind of belt up at the end of this issue. And I kind of wish, I think that's one thing that's kind of stagnating mainstream comics, like the big 2, obviously, because the more independents, Antarctic, Image, etc., so forth, they push the envelope a little bit more, and that's why they're selling. But with that said, if you're a fan of Damian, and you can get past some of that, you know, like you're like, oh, look, we're copying Mortal Kombat. Oh, look, we're copying Fight Club. Oh, all these very interesting characters from the 90s. Yeah, we're just going to use them as props. I think that's why, as much as I enjoy Joshua Williamson, I think that's, when you get down to brass tacks, I think that's what kind of killed it for me. And when I saw he was taking over Batman from Tinian, I think that's what finally kind of ultimately said, you know what? I'm done. So with that said, if you guys have enjoyed this comic book, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Lazarus bell next to subscribe, that way we continue to upload content so you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.